Okay. Thank you all for being here. This is like a really exciting moment for us and quite a big step in Stitch's journey. So really happy to be sharing with everybody. I think there's like a super interesting group here. I see some investors, some banks, some startups, and it's always just like such a privilege and honor for us to be able to stitch those groups together. See, there's some people that haven't been to the Stitch office and haven't heard that joke before. It is good the first time. So I will start. Like, what do we do and why are we here and why do we want to share stuff with you? Essentially what we do at Stitch is we build developer-friendly infrastructure. We build tools that simplify and optimize the task of creating delightful financial experiences. Like, why is that something that matters? I think like most people in the room will understand, and this is maybe not obvious for everyone, but that is just hard, right? It is like a very difficult, like a surprisingly difficult thing in 2023 to just build a financial product. It is increasingly hard, and apologies, bankers in the room, to build a delightful financial product, right? It is like very, very difficult because you spend all of your time focusing on like the nitty-gritty, right? You spend all of your time focusing on infrastructure. You spend all of your time focusing on compliance, on fees. So it's really difficult to just get to what you want to do, really delight your users, and really like perform like the task that you set out to do. And so where are we in our journey? And what have we done? Why did we start? So very specifically, we are 27 months live. So we are not super old into our journey, but we're really excited and happy about what we've accomplished so far. We've been very fortunate, and we've been able to raise over 500 million rand in venture capital from some world-class and local investors, including like global payments giants like PayPal. We have grown a team, many of you here in the room, which is probably what we're most proud of, to about 75 people. That is not supposed to be a flex, but the engineering piece underneath it is. Like most of this team is just engineers. We have 50 out of the 75 people just working on payments engineering. That's what we do. That is like core to what we do and is really what we pride ourselves in. We're really a developer-first company, and we really build from the ground up. And we'll get to this in even more detail, and I think Junaid will speak to this too. But we're super excited. We have over 7 live integrations across all the major banks in South Africa, and we do this in a very deeply integrated way. And so to get into that a little bit more, like why Stitch, right? Like almost everybody in this room has worked with or experienced a PSP in some way, shape, or form, whether it is you buying something on Takealot and you experiencing a payments checkout there, or a lot of you here in the room, when why we're giving you candy bars is because you have a PSP and we're like asking you to consider us and move over for some reason, right? And like, why is it and what do we do differently, right? Like one is, again, engineering, right? At its core, payments is like an engineering problem, right? You're like stitching together like many, many different solutions. And like we are fortunate that we have built this from the ground up in the last 27 months. And we really focused on the latest technologies and been able to optimize conversion and experience in really like a ground up kind of way. Two, and like any of you that have worked with us, we like are very excited to always call ourselves like engineering first, but we don't consider ourselves product-centric at Stitch. We consider ourselves client-centric, right? At the end of the day, what we do is we just serve our partners and our clients. It's really important for us that we give people a best-in-class experience, like no matter the product that they're adopting, no matter their use case. And you will see that when you're interacting with anyone at Stitch, whether it's an engineer, a support person, a salesperson, really, really important for us. And we'll jump to like some of the people we work with in a second, but I think that's why we've been fortunate to work with like global and international players. And then really importantly, and one of our biggest differentiating factors is that we are like a deeply infrastructural product. We connect right to the core of financial systems, of banks. We are like deeply compliant. We have licenses in South Africa and Nigeria. And it's taken us a long time to do this. Actually, like a lot of our progress has been in the last like 9 months, and that's because it's taken us so long to build up all of these relationships, the regulatory side of things, the compliance side of things, but being able to connect first party to all of this infrastructure has really made a huge difference in the product that we can offer. And then a little bit of a shout out. We're like really, really happy and really proud that we can work with some of the like most impressive and meaningful local players in the market, and people that are like all household names, as well as international players trying to enter the market for the very first time. So we're really excited that we get to work with people across the globe, across sectors, across industries and use cases. And I think even more exciting that we just get to touch some of these people. In many of these cases, we are their only payments methods, or we power them end to end. Money in, reconciliation, and money out. And it's just a privilege for us to be able to power that for all of our partners. And we hope to win some of you over in the room today. Thank you all. Please have like a great evening. We've got like a little bit coming up. Junaid will start off and talk to you specifically about like what it means for us to be a PSP and how we're thinking about that. We'll go into a little bit more on the client side and how we think about working with partners. And then please enjoy yourselves. Talk to people you don't know. Talk to salespeople at Stitch, and have a good time. Cool.
Thank you, Kiaan. Quick intro. I haven't met everyone here. So Junaid, president at Stitch, that's what they call me. Don't know what that means. That means I have to wear pants and shoes when I speak to you guys. That's what that means. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what Stitch actually is and what the product is. So Stitch is a next generation PSP for enterprises, is how we've defined it in our latest iteration. What does that mean? It means that we do three things. The first thing we do is we build a platform for payments that connects deeply into infrastructure. So that's where we started, and that's the core of what we do. What that entails is working very closely with banks, deeply integrating with them for all sorts of functionality directly. It means when you work with us, you're working with kind of the bedrock of the payments infrastructure. You're not working with multiple layers of partners. You're working with people that have the direct capabilities to facilitate your payments, and that's across all our payment methods, whether that is connecting to a bank, a card network, a crypto network, a wallet, etc. That's something that we started with and something that we pride ourselves in doing. A lot of the 50 engineers that work here spend their time on this. Most of them work on back-end things, all these connections to banks, all these connections to infrastructure. They don't work on things that people can see. It's all the stuff that's under the hood, and that's what we spend time on. I think that's a real differentiator, because I think in the latest iteration of the financial industry, people are very focused on the front end. They're focused on the shiny stuff, like show me some journeys, which we also have. We're not doing this to the exclusion of that, but I think most people only focus on that, but we're focusing on the meat and the sizzle, not just the sizzle. So that's really important to us. The second thing we do is we create APIs and different integration shapes, different integration methods for merchants to connect to our payments platform, which then connects them to the infrastructure. So very focused on, how can we make it as easy for clients as possible to integrate into us. Very simple documents, very easy for developers to read them and integrate. A lot of times when you integrate with financial partners, what the documents say and what the product actually does is two completely different things. So the documents are almost like marketing material versus like integration instructions. We try to keep our documents as integration instructions, not as marketing material. And to do that, that means that our product needs to be really strong and our platform needs to be really well designed. So any engineer can just pick this up and build an integration in a matter of days, not in a matter of weeks. So what it would have taken a whole team to do over a matter of weeks or months before, now one person can do in a matter of days. And that's like a core part of what we focus on. And then finally, we connect the end user. And that's not the least important part, but that is the part that I think most people focus on. I think we do it well too, but our two differentiators are really on the other ends, but we're also very good at the end user part. And that part is about like creating flows that highly convert, that users enjoy. But that's not the part of the part of the product that we try to own and differentiate ourselves on. I think our main approach there is to make our brands the star, our merchants the star. A lot of payment service providers, they want to own the end user because they have some kind of consumer play that they have in mind or something like that. We don't want to do that. We want to play in merchant integrations and financial infrastructure. We want our merchants to own the end user. We want you to control those relationships. So a lot of what we focus on is how can we make our merchants the star of the payment flow? How can we make you look good? So that's how we approach that part of it. So that's ultimately what Stitch is. It's those three things, and that together is kind of our business and the three areas that we focus on. So what does this payments platform give you the capability to do? It gives you the capability to do three things. The first is it allows you to collect money. That is, in your application, in your site, connect your users and allow them to pay. Allow them to pay through different payment methods. We'll go through what some of the payment methods are now. But what we try and do is allow flexibility and freedom for people to pay however they want to pay. We don't want to say, hey, this payment method is better than that payment method. We want to support all the payment methods that are important to people and make them all work really well. You as the merchant know your users better. So you should say, hey, I want these payment methods, and each one should work as easily as the next, and it should give you like a standardized experience as a merchant and give your customers a standardized experience as a consumer. So that's the first aspect of what we do, and I'll take you through some of that. The second part is we help you to manage your money. So now you've collected this money, now what, right? You need an account to put it in. Sometimes starting an account is very hard. Sometimes understanding what is happening in that account from a reconciliation perspective is really hard. So if you think about you're an enterprise merchant that has 5 different payment methods, maybe you're working with 2 or 3 different payment providers, how do you know everything that's happening across all your bank accounts, across all your payment providers? That takes a lot of effort. Like you have to ingest all the data, you have to monitor a bunch of bank accounts, you have a financial operations team that needs to do that. We try to automate all of that. So we automate your reconciliation, automate the monitoring of your bank accounts, automate kind of the ingestion of your data, and try to make that as seamless as possible. So we try to offer a platform that has the power basically of a financial operations team that's focused on payments to free up resources for you so that you can focus on what matters for your business, not on monitoring what's happening on your payment stack, right? And the final part is now that you have that money in your accounts, you know what's there, you've reconciled it, you're happy with your balances. What do you do with it? You need to pay people, right? You make money so that you can pay people and do things with your money. So we offer an API for payouts. And that payouts might be supplier payouts, employer payouts, consumer payouts for things like refunds or disbursements into our marketplace. Whatever the case may be, we have a seamless API for payouts with instant payouts as well as kind of like standard delivery payouts. So that's essentially the 3 parts of our product. I'll go through each one of them very briefly. If we talk about the first part where we collect money, I think the main differentiator for Stitch and what we've tried to build here is one API with one integration for all payment methods. Let me say all PSPs offer all payment methods, but do they offer all payment methods equal, is the question you should ask yourself, right? Do you have one API where you can access all payment methods in an equal way? Whether you want to do card, bank transfers, debits, cash, etc., is it as easy to integrate? And do you get all the things that we have on the right-hand side, which is basically very important, which is optimized flows for conversion for every payment method, which kind of look and function similarly, white labelable for your brand so that you are the star, not the payment service provider, offers you the option to use our flows or your own flows with an API-only integration. That's one aspect that applies to all our payment methods. The second thing that applies to them is that we have kind of standardized statuses and error codes across all our payment methods. That's very in the weeds, but why does that matter? That matters because what it means is that no matter what payment method you're using or what payment provider you are working with, you will get a standardized integration. So it means you can have the same functionality across all your payment methods. Sometimes, if you're working with card and bank transfers, you have to change your product depending on how people pay. For example, if you're running a wallet and you take a card transfer, then maybe you can give people value immediately. But if you do bank transfer, maybe you have to wait 24 hours to give them value. We try to flatten all of that so that you're working with all payment methods in the same way so that you can be totally agnostic of what payment method you are using. And then finally, you can have one report basically on our API. You just say, what are all my payments I've done? And then you can see all your payments across all your payment methods, right? While all PSPs might say, hey, we have all these payment methods on our website, when you go one level deeper, it is very seldom that you have equal functionality and standardized features across all payment methods. And I think that's something that's unique in what we've built. So that's on the collection side. So what payment methods does that apply to? I won't read through all of them, but basically there are two groups of payment methods that you see on here. You have payment methods that are designed for checkout, i.e. you are an e-commerce site and you're selling a good or a service once off and you need to do that checkout and make that payment. The other type of payment method we offer is for subscriptions and collections. So you are a business or that sells to other businesses or consumers that has a recurring subscription or an invoicing business model. And we have payment methods for both of those. So on the checkout side, card, instant EFT, bank transfers, cash, new things like Capitec Pay and PaySharp also supported. And then on the subscription side, debit orders, our own proprietary method, link pay and card as well. So we cover both sides of the spectrum. Very often in the especially South African payments landscape, if you want to do checkout versus collections, you have to go to two separate payment providers. You can't do your debits and your invoicing on the same person that you do your card checkouts on your website. But with us, you can do both those things with one provider, which means you get one set of features across all of them, like I was saying earlier. For people with crossover business models where they have once-off purchases and collections, for example, you want to do your first payment by card, but then you want to collect your subscriptions by debit order over 24 months, that's a game changer because now they can do that with one provider, whereas before you would have needed two. So there's that. And then I talked about the part about the user front end where maybe undersold what we have. Quick demo of kind of how the flows look like to show you the standardization and kind of the showcasing of the merchant brand across all payment methods. Can we play this? Me? No, I can't click that. This is just a laser pointer. It doesn't control the button. Okay, so basically, if you're working with Stitch, essentially this is the checkout part. You can seamlessly integrate kind of all of those payment methods. We can host that payment page, or you can. So you can get all these payment methods. This can be in your app, or it can be in our site, right? We can offer either option. You can turn any one of these on and off as you like over your API. You don't have to go through a whole onboarding process or anything for all of these. Once you integrate with Stitch once, you can turn any one of these on and off, standardized commercials against all of them, so you have a lot of flexibility, right? Now, we're going into one, which is cash, which is a bit different. So this is where you can take cash for your online product at an ATM. So basically, user goes to your checkout, they put in their phone number, we verify that phone number with an OTP. You might say why? It's because one of the big problems with accepting cash is a problem of third-party payments for people that run wallets, which is basically I KYC Junaid as the user on my wallet, and now someone else deposits into their wallet, which is a problem from an AML perspective. So we solve that by linking the references and the payments to their phone number. So that solves the problem of third-party payments. So basically, the user will see very clear instructions. They'll go to an ATM, they'll deposit the cash. We'll send you a notification the minute they deposit the cash, and then you can credit the user online. So what that means is you can now do online transactions in real time based on real world payments, right, without any delay. So that's a really powerful factor for increasing your distribution as an online business. Another example, this is on the subscription side. I also don't know which one we're going to choose, so I'm waiting to see. Spin the wheel of fortune. Okay, we're going to do a direct debit. Okay, so these are the new payment methods that are coming up in the market now. Capitec Pay and PayShop, which is the other 4 banks, which is not Capitec. And basically, they've built a very seamless payment flow where you use the user's ID or account number. The user doesn't need to put in any other details than the ID or their account number. If the merchant already has that, we can pre-fill that like you see. They have an MFA in their app. They approve, and then it debits their bank account. It's as easy as that. It's literally a 2-step payment process from a bank account. I think it's even easier than a credit card payment. And those are based on APIs built directly by the banks. So it's like a bank-run method that we allow you to integrate. What's next? Yes. Okay. Now this is on the subscription side again. I know we're going to choose DebiCheck here. This is like for ongoing debits onto a person's account. Usually you have to go into the store and sign some forms to do this, to pay your like Virgin Active subscription or something like this. This is a fully online flow for debit orders and debit checks. Basically you fill in like 6 fields of information. So it's super quick. You do it all online. You sign online. You get a confirmation of the mandate to your email. Send that to your email. Basically, you get an authentication on your side as the consumer, you confirm, and then you're signed up for a subscription. It's easy as that. So basically, very optimized flows on both the online payment side for one-soft checkouts, offline payments like cash, and then subscription payments like debit orders. All, as you can see, very similar customer journeys. The user is not really impacted by what they choose. You can expect similar conversion across whatever payment method works for you and your business. One integration so you can turn everything on and off. You don't have to build any new screens for your payment methods. We have already prepared all of them. We can just customize them for you. So we hope that makes collection of funds very easy. So that's the first part on collections. Okay, we can end this video. I think that's the point. Thank you. Okay, now we come to the second part, which is manage your money, right? So now you've received all these funds. One thing people don't often think about is when I get paid, where does that money land? What account does that settle in? Right? Because the bank account that settles in is very important. Why? Because depending on the account that those payments land in, it determines how much visibility you have of your reconciliation. What do I mean by reconciliation? I mean like someone goes on your website, they buy something, your payment service provider tells you, hey, they've paid. Now you give the person the goods, right? But how do you know you actually got the money? How do you know you received the money in your bank account? Because up until that point, all you've received is data to say, hey, you've been paid. Now the next step is like, did I actually get the money? And then how do you know if you got the money? The way you know you get the money is someone in the finance team goes and looks through all your bank statements and they say, oh, that notification, it had that reference. Where is that in my bank statement? Can I find it here? And people do that with various levels of sophistication. At the lowest levels of sophistication, people are manually doing this. They're looking at like, here's one screen and here's another screen and let me check that I found them and I'm ticking them off, right, basically. The next level of sophistication is like some kind of like Excel worksheet where you're doing like VLOOKUPs to say, oh, what's the references here and what's the references here, and now I'm matching them. Also super prone to error and like really hard to get all that data together. If you settle your payments in a Stitch account, whether it's Stitch methods or payments from any other PSP, we automate all of that reconciliation, right? So if your money hits a Stitch account on a transaction by transaction basis, we will provide you insights to say, hey, those 10 payments that you did yesterday with X, Y, and Z providers, those are now in your account and you have the money and the balance is available, right? So that's the reconciliation part. And then that's like we produce reporting and analytics on top of that. And basically you can also use those funds for refunds when your users do that. And you can do refunds across all the payment methods that I showed earlier. And I want to emphasize the point that if you use a Stitch account, you can use our payment methods that I showed earlier, or you can use payment methods from your current provider. So one issue that we found when we were working with our clients is that people were working with multiple providers, right? And the issue that they were having there is multiple providers provide you multiple reports, and they settle you in multiple accounts. So now how do you know all the money you received yesterday if you have one provider that does your card, one provider that does your instant EFT, PSP, and one provider that does your debit orders. Now you have to manually go and look to 3 payment service providers' dashboards and 3 different bank accounts probably, and match all the payments. What we've allowed you to do here is just connect your other payment service providers to your Stitch account, and then we do all of that reporting and reconciliation for you in a standardized way, no matter which provider you're using. So I'll show you guys what that looks like. Then there's the payout part. So now you have this money, you know what money you have, you've got your reports, you've reconciled, you know who paid you and who didn't, you sorted out your exceptions, so on and so forth. Now you want to move your money, right? Essentially through the same API, the same integration, you can just make payouts now. And you can say, move that money from that Stitch account to my suppliers, to my employees, back into another account where I do my savings and my money management, maybe where you're earning interest or something like that. You can make any kind of disbursement. If you're some kind of a wallet or someone that has to give money back to your users as well, you can also do withdrawals and refunds. And what we've built around withdrawals and refunds, I think, is quite interesting. Basically, we can link the withdrawals and the refunds to the actual pay-ins. So when your user deposited money into their wallet or they made the original payment, you can just go back to that original payment and say, refund that payment. And it will do all sorts of checks to make sure you actually received that money, you haven't already refunded it or partially refunded it. So it has like all sorts of validation to make sure you're not like being defrauded when you do refunds as well. On the withdrawal side, you can just say, hey, if you have a wallet, withdraw from that wallet. And it will say, is the balance in that wallet, so on and so forth. So we've built various controls and validations around refunds and withdrawals, which are interesting use cases where a lot of fraud tend to happen. So we spend a lot of time and effort on closing down the avenues for fraud and the avenues for risk for businesses on that part of their payouts. So basically, this is your home screen on what we call the Payment OS. So basically, you have all your payments per service providers connected. It reconciles all your payments, and then this is the outputs that you get. Over all payment service providers, how much have you received? What's your conversion? Which of your integrations are working and not working? What exceptions do you have for the day? So who said that they've paid you, but they haven't paid you, right? So you'll see the exceptions down here in the corner. And you can monitor basically all of your payments in one place, regardless of who your payment service providers are. We unified the data into one payments table. So that's what you can see here. So you can see multiple providers, multiple methods, and then a standard data set. So that for your finance teams, they don't have to spend time like standardizing data. They just have a standard data set to work with. You can also turn on and turn off which providers are integrated with the system. So we've pre-integrated with the providers, and basically you can set up your own payments to integrate your different providers into your Stitch account and to your Stitch dashboard, right? What this does is like a very powerful tool for your payment teams internally. So basically they can do things like compare performance across different providers. They can do experiments like, oh, I want to use provider 1 for card and provider 2 for another payment method, or I want to use different providers for different regions or different providers for different products. And then you can compare your analytics across the different providers. Integrating a new provider is as simple as going into your integration section and putting in your API keys. And then we will draw in the data from your existing provider. Obviously, you've provided us like your access, essentially. And then basically, you can use it to do different things. Like if you're in 2 countries, you can route between a provider for one country and another country, and you can compare their performance. So this is really built as an enabler for very sophisticated payment teams that want to optimize their payment performance. Is that the end of this video? I don't think it is. Okay, that's all there is. Okay, that's all from me. Jess, you want to go?
So you'll hear from a few of us in the business development or go-to-market team. We wanted to go through, outside of the product, the use cases that we've seen with the various clients that we've spoken to. As you see, we've been very lucky enough to have access to quite a few big names, both locally as well as globally. And from an e-commerce and marketplace, which I've been privileged enough to deal a lot with, the first things that we hear when we speak to our clients are, we want to make a seamless experience for our first-time users. We want them to check out easily. We want them to then return. We want to give them choice in the payment methods, but we also want flexibility to guide them to the payment methods that we think are either the most profitable for ourselves or we think obviously suits the use case of the product that they're buying. If we have to do a refund, we want to make it easy and a non-event for us. And then we obviously want to disperse to our various vendors in a marketplace, for example, as quickly and on time. And then at the end of that, track everything. Can you do that? A year ago, we said, yeah, cool, yeah, we can do that end-to-end across one payment method. They then said, well, we need them across all of them. Hence, today it's the launch. So we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, right? We have your standard payment methods, we've got your instant EFT, we've got your card. We cover all the elements that you expect to see when you go to a checkout page. But a few elements that we wanted to focus on, and the first sentence is quite a mouthful, so we'll break it down. First party, we're building it all ourselves, as you've heard today, across our 50 engineers. We want to facilitate the pay-ins across multiple methods at the same standard, and we want to initiate complex payouts at scale. When we speak to a lot of our marketplaces specifically, a single transaction can amount to around 5 disbursements or a refund across payouts, and they need to do that timelessly. We're able to do that across third-party multiple disbursements and efficiently. Across recurring purchases, which you'll hear a lot, especially in the e-commerce space, so myself, literally today, had to sign up and get vitamins, keep healthy for winter. Smart route between debit orders, tokenized card, and linked accounts. That's where we look at how do you guide based on the order value, the purchase, or the product that they're buying, and how do you make sure that you're making the most money from a single purchase, but retaining that customer easily every month. And then the third, which from an e-com perspective we're most excited about, is cash pay. Online purchases for offline consumer. These are either your unbanked consumers or they're consumers that just prefer to pay cash that have historically been left out of your e-commerce channels. We've seen a lot of interest here specifically in your travel industry where people are wanting to pay for flights, they're wanting to do it via cash and they haven't been able to. And these are what we've seen in the two markets. Granty, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. And good evening, everyone. I know that you've had a lot of hellos this evening, but I think the pandemic and COVID-19 really made us value what in-person time is. So it's really good to spend time with all of you this evening and chat through what is a really exciting move for us as a business, right? And I think in going through a lot of these use cases, we'll speak about e-commerce marketplaces, and I want to speak to you about two specifically, and these are more wallet ecosystems as well as collections environments, right? And wallet ecosystems have really come to the fore over the last few years. And when we think about what a wallet ecosystem is, it's essentially a digital store of value, right? So a user, consumer is on an app where they've been KYC'd to get onto this application, and they're moving funds via a payment method from a store of value that they own, a bank account, into a digital store of value. And there's essentially like a few approaches that they can take, but I think before discussing that, a lot of the user behavior that we see within these wallet-based ecosystems and environments is very frequent, right? Users are making multiple deposits on a monthly basis, and due to this behavior, you need to create a user experience that is as seamless as possible. And a lot of applications really take two approaches to how they define or at least architect what this payments experience is. So they'd look at one approach, which is essentially a default payment method. So you go through your process on the application, whether it be an investment application, a savings application, a crypto application, or online gaming. What you'd essentially do is have either a default payment method, so that's like 1 to 2 payment methods on the checkout page. You select one of them as the default method and you use that method over and over again. The other approach is multiple methods, right? I think we've seen this in many environments where you get to a checkout page, it's 9 options that you have, and I think a lot of the philosophy behind that is the more methods that we have, we want to offer consumers as many methods as they would like to be able to convert them. What we can do now as Stitch is support both, right? Previously, where we were more playing in the default method space, what we're able to do now is to support across multiple products, given what the use case is, right? So if I speak through some of the products specifically, LinkPay, this is where we're tokenizing users' bank accounts, and not to be too duplicative as to what Junaid and Kiaan had mentioned earlier, but with LinkPay, we're tokenizing users' bank accounts. These users have been KYC'd already, and we're enabling a one-click payment for returning users. And essentially in this environment, a lot of the use cases is LinkPay as the default payment method. And this is an instant EFT product. With Instant Pay, this is also an instant EFT product, but we're not tokenizing users' bank accounts, but we are enabling a one-click payment when users are going to make a return payment through this method. I think within a checkout page where there are multiple options, LinkPay is our preferred approach from an integration perspective. Card. Excitingly, with card, we can offer both tokenized, so this is card on file, as well as one-source 3DS payments. So this can support all wallet types. And then ones that are super exciting for us, right? We spoke about the digitization of cash. For a lot of people that don't have access to digital payment methods, that can't actually participate in these environments, through a solution like CashPay, they're able to make deposits either at ATM or retail points of sale, and through these deposits can then see the funds in their application in this digital store of value and start to use it. As a software layer that sits below all of these and the integration, I think Junaid just went through it. PayOS, from an orchestration perspective, really looking to optimize what this payment stack is, pull in the most relevant method at the most relevant time, and then also standardizing the reconciliation across all methods as well as all providers. So really a very consolidated solution and very comprehensive solution for anyone that is in the wallet ecosystem. Okay, next up is collections use cases. I think generally we all understand what collections are. We have to do them, don't always want to. It's very much a grudge payment. And a few examples of these, right? Rent, again, you have to do it, and it's always a decent chunk of whatever your monthly income is. Installment payments, premiums, policies, membership subscriptions, essentially the collections of funds, and the frequency of these collections of funds can be relevant to whatever the product is. Majority of what we see in the collection space is monthly frequency. So you set your payment date for the 28th of every month, and funds are collected. In some cases, there's weekly collections, right? But what we're able to offer within this space is the most comprehensive collections solution on the market, right? And this is where we're looking at multiple products. I think for a lot of collections, the example of gym membership was mentioned a bit earlier. Majority of the solutions in the gym membership space are debit check, debit order, right? What we're able to do now is when the debit check or debit order runs, if that fails, what we can also do is add other methods as additional payment methods to be able to collect this payment, right? Whether that be card, instant EFT, direct deposit. So that's users making payments from the internet banking environment straight into your bank account, and also cash, right? And you can do this all from one provider. I think the exciting thing here is, again, smart routing. So we're able to orchestrate and send payments, use the most relevant payment method to optimize what that experience looks like for our clients, as well as giving the customers or your clients the convenience to pay with the method that they feel most comfortable with. So that's speaking through some of the use cases. I'm going to hand over to Dewald, our Head of Customer Success, to speak through some of our approach and how we actually manage clients or partnerships.
Thanks, Grant. I'm going to need that last slide, please. Cool. So while we wait for that, the big question that we have now is, once you've signed with Stitch and you're happy to go with these products, like the next question becomes like, how do we actually service you? And we've seen with many of our clients, that's often where in the payments industry, the ball gets dropped. for various reasons. Clients are often not set up in the right way to manage probably one of the most important segments of a business in terms of payments, pay-ins, payouts. It's probably the part that you want to be the most proactive in any side of the business. And we've heard time and time again in this industry, people are not happy with the amount of service that they get from clients. And that like spars over and like it touches on various elements of the client journey. And one thing at Stitches, we really don't speak about vendors, we speak about partners. We really try and find ways that at the end of the partnership, we can find ourselves being an extension of a team member of a client. And one proxy way we measure that is if the client freely hands us their own merch at the end of the day. So that's how you, at Stitch on a normal day, you'll see people walking around with different clients' merch. That means we've done a good job. And that's like a bit of a scoreboard that we keep internally. So the first thing just in the client journey, we can break it down in 3 parts. The first one is integration and go live. Junaid has spoken about this. One thing that we realize in the industry, one of the most scarcest resources out there is developers. And what we've seen time and time and again, you sit with companies whose main focus are the end users, but most of the times of engineers are spent on managing payment services and the whole infrastructure and beyond. And we've looked at that, and the first thing that we've done is build really strong API documents. Being a product-first company, we put in a lot of time on a continuous basis to make sure our API documents cater for the entire dev community out there. That was the first step that we took. The second part that we realized, like, that is not enough. We really need to take and hold the hands of our clients once they start integrating us. We started our journey, a couple of years ago, and one thing that we started measuring was how long does it take clients to integrate Stitch? How long does it take them to go from 0 to 1? Because that's only when you start providing value. And we started the journey, and it was a couple of months here. Sometimes it takes longer. And the more and more we went into it, we realized the only way we can get clients live as quickly as possible is to become that extension of the team member. So we've got an incredible software engineering team on the client solutions side that literally goes and deploys into our client's environment for a few reasons. Firstly, we understand the client's tech stack. We know how to interpret it, and we know how to make sure that the solutioning of Stitch in that environment is top-notch. That also allows us to service the client really well when problems happen, because we can decode on their code base, not just on ours. And there's another scoreboard that we have currently. Normally, a client takes around a month to integrate with Stitch. Our record at the moment is 3 days. There was a lot of hand clapping that went on when that went live. So that's the first part. Being a dev-first company is really making sure we hold your hand during that process and become that extension of the team. The second part is once you're live. The value only really starts happening if we position Stitch in the infrastructure in such a way that it serves your end user in the best possible way. So we spend a lot of time during that stage to figure out how do we reach the joint KPIs within your business and ours to make sure that this method ramps as quickly as possible. And there's various teams involved during this stage. First one is marketing. We often have the joke that we've got marketing as a service as well at Stitch, because our marketing team spends so much time understanding what's your brand positioning of your end users, how do we position Stitch in such a way that it speaks to them in the right way and it ticks all the boxes that you would want from a payments journey. One of that is trust. How do you make sure users trust the method from the get-go? Second method around that is client experience. Colors, images, all of these things play a really big role when it comes to the payment experience. During this stage, we also work really closely with the client team to understand what are the different KPIs that you have in your team that you want to achieve, and I'll touch on that now and how that speaks to our client-centric product development side. The last phase of that is like the fully scaled area where we start managing after we feel like your end users have adapted all of the methods fully. Like, how do we make sure we maintain a certain service level that you are happy with, and we start building on top of that. We often go as far as offering clients things that's outside of our own environment, connecting them with our partners, because at the end of the day, if you're successful, we're successful. And maybe I can give 2 examples here with 2 of our products. The first one is CashPay. One of the big problems or challenges that a lot of large companies have in South Africa is how do you reach that large untouched base in South Africa where 50% of people still transacts with cash. One of our clients actually had a KPI where they wanted to reach X amount of users within a 3-4 month period. We realized that is not possible with digital payments like credit card and instant EFT. And all of these pain points we compared and understood and took back internally that led to the development of products like CashPay. The second one is PayOS, which speaks again to this problem that we've seen is too many of our partners spend too much time maintaining payment methods and fixing issues. And PayOS allowed us to solve that in various ways by, one, making sure that finances teams got all the different elements that they need to, one, reconcile data internally, not spend all of their time managing issues and reconciliation issues, but two, also start building a really effective standardized payment experience where you have really good standardized data that you can actually optimize around things like conversion rates, optimal client experience, and saving on costs based on the methods that you take. And then the last part of fully scaled is as soon as we get the t-shirts from a merchant side perspective, the next step is getting the hoodies. Then we know we've done a good job. That's the type of client journey you can experience with Stitch. And one thing that we really push forward to as we grow is what we've realized is once we build these strong partnerships, what it does in this ecosystem is it almost accelerates the type of innovation and growth that you see in the industry. And we've got team members that is exceptionally aligned behind what our clients are trying to achieve, and that reflects in our product, the way we deal with people, and hopefully we're really excited to be able to partner with more of you and be with you on that journey. Cool. I think, is that? Oh, yes. I think that is it. Everybody can now get up again and stretch your legs, and we've got more of that. There's a few things I might want to mention. Is one thing, if you haven't realized, the beers is API IPAs. That's something that has been it's been in the works for a long time. So please help yourself to that. And then I hope you saw the PS bars as well. It's PS bars, but then there's a P on the side. It's like PSP. So I just wanted to make sure that didn't go above anybody. So there's a lot of thinking that went into this, and the marketing team really put in a lot of hard work on that. Please enjoy yourself, help yourself to some drinks, and if you've got any questions, there's a lot of people with Stitch Church that can help you. Thanks so much. Enjoy your evening, and thanks for coming out.